President Trump down in the polls among female voters against Joe Biden. He needs to win them over in the next 18 days. Can he do it is the question. Joining me now is Sarah Longwell, Strategic Director and founder of Republican Voters Against Trump. Sarah, it's so good to have you on. Thank you for joining.
Thanks for having me.
So let's get into it. Well, women helped carry Trump into the presidency the last time around. Is his behavior right now winning women over?
No, it's not winning women over. But I think the biggest problem for the president is that he is failing to speak to the issues that are top of mind for women. I mean, the fact is, we're in the middle of a pandemic. There's been an economic crisis. A lot of these women, their kids aren't in school or they're doing school virtually. They haven't been able to go visit their sick parents. Somebody in their family's been furloughed. They have real concerns. They have felt the personal consequences of the last 6 months. And the president doesn't talk about those things. He talks about Hunter Biden's hard drive. He talks about conspiracy theories. Mainly, he talks about himself. And I think what women are looking for right now is answers, right? They want a plan. They want to know, is there going to be a vaccine? Is help on the way? I mean, something I hear from these women, especially in the last group I just did, they were just like, you know, before there was money coming in and the government looked like it was going to do something, but then it just stopped. And I think, you know, people feel kind of abandoned. And
well,
so
let me just ask you here, because, and I want you to continue on with what you're saying, but I want people to know that you host focus groups with female voters, many of whom supported Trump in 2016. And, you know, why have some of them turned against the president? You're speaking about that now, about what you're hearing, because as you said, my kids aren't in school. I'm having to, you know, teach them myself at home, and they're learning on Zoom, and, you know, so what are you hearing from them? Why is that?
Yeah, so I've done about 50 focus groups over the last, let's say, 3 years, and I've watched Donald Trump alienate these women in real time. And to be clear, they're all Trump voters. So they're all 2016 Trump voters. And, you know, I screen them to find the people who rate the president as doing a very bad or a somewhat bad job, because I'm thinking about who's gettable, who's persuadable. But as I've been talking to these women, you know, for a long time, back in 2019, people were still kind of hanging in there. They were still with him. The economy was okay. They didn't like his behavior, hated the tweeting, did think, you know, that he just didn't behave himself well, wasn't presidential, wasn't professional, but things were going okay in their lives. But what I saw, you know, in March and April, and especially July, that's when I saw the bottom fall out. Because it was the personal consequences. Their lives were being impacted. It wasn't like an abstract foreign policy thing like Ukraine. You know, the economy was doing very badly, and they couldn't go anywhere, you know, so those personal consequences. And the thing was, I think the president would have done better with these women if he'd looked like he was trying. I mean, this is what they say all the time. They're like, it just doesn't seem like he cares. They care about the coronavirus. They want to see people wearing masks. You know, one of the things that just, forget the horse race politics of it for a second. There is a tremendous amount of personal pain out there. The stories that when I ask people, you know, how do you think things are going in the country? They all say it's going very badly, but mixed in there, they also talk about their own lives and how they couldn't visit a parent who died, or how they can't take their sick child into the doctor, or how they're recovering from, you know, they're going through chemotherapy and they can't go to the store because people don't wear masks. And so it's that frustration that when it seems like the president is then downplaying the thing that is most impacting their lives and doesn't seem like he's trying, that's where he's really losing people. And I'll tell you just one other thing, which it surprised me a little bit. It doesn't surprise me about coronavirus or the economic stuff, but the George Floyd killing really was a turning point for a lot of these women.
You're reading my mind.
You know, they just, here's the thing, they felt like when the country is this divided, what they want from a president is just at least pretend to try to unify the country, but instead what they talk about is how, not just how divisive he is, but how he makes everything worse. They often use the phrase, he's like pouring gasoline on the fire. And they themselves want, you know, they're not, they want there to be a new way of talking about race. Like, they genuinely feel like there's a racial problem in the country, and they want to see the president do something about it. For him to make things worse, that was actually a big thing with a lot of these
I
women.
agree with what you're saying 155,000%. And I have said before that that was an incredible opportunity for the president during the George Floyd protest and the killing, I should say, for him to bring the country together. The incredible opportunity to make a difference with systemic racism in this country. Instead, he went the other way and said, well, he doesn't believe there's systemic racism, and he doesn't believe that there is unconscious bias in policing, and on and on and on, and it's just not helping. And what he's not understanding, and what many people aren't understanding, what you're saying, is when George Floyd called out for his mother as he was dying, that resonated with everyone, but especially women, Sarah.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, there's this woman who was a repeat person. I saw her back in 2019, and she said she was going to vote for Trump. She said, better the poison you know than the poison you don't know. And that stuck with me as a rationale. But I saw her again in July, and she was clearly against the president now. And I asked her why. And she said, I just watched what the police did to that man, and it made me so sad, and the president didn't seem to care. And that was the thing that had really turned her off. And I just heard things like that over and over again. I have a lot of women tell me that they're pro-life, and that's why they've always voted Republican. But that they're starting to rethink what it means to be pro-life. Because being pro-life also means caring about
the people
it means Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
It means people in prisons' lives matter. It means that all different kinds of lives matter. So it's interesting how the frame on some of these things has shifted with a lot of these women. And it's interesting too. I mean, look, I don't want to overplay it. There's absolutely people who are sticking with the president. I mean, even these people who don't like him. Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
No, but go finish your thought. Some of them think what?
Some of them think Democrats are worse, and that's why they're sticking with the president. But he's losing a lot of these women, and that, I think, is going to be his margin of loss here.
Listen, we've gone long. Just a yes or no. Does he have time to make it up in 18 days?
No.
To win these women? Okay. Thank you, Sarah. Fascinating.